agenda out to everybody. I have been working on a deadline at work. I've managed to get a 1,500-page document uploaded to SED today, so that was good news on my end. But that means I did not get the agenda done for our meeting today, so I apologize for that. We had covered some ground in our previous meeting. We could use that as a basis to work from. And I think there's some topics that we've got some updates on, so we can use that to see how things are moving along from here. I think minutes went out from the previous meeting and they were shared out at the board level. So I'm assuming there were no objections to the minutes of the previous meeting. And if there are, we can elaborate on those. Paul, I think you mentioned that we've gotten some bids back for the east wall and the north wall of the library.
Yes, we did. We got the bids. They're a little bit, well, they need a little work. We have a low bidder, Debrino, put in the low bid by quite a bit. The north wall, the bid of 269 is actually below what the grant provides. The grant is for 320,000.
Yay, finally worked. Yes.
And the bid was 269 for that portion of the work. But it doesn't include a few things. I met with Lisa this afternoon at TAP, and we feel that we can switch some things around so that the bid on both the north wall and east wall, you know, will match pretty closely the grants.
And you said there's some reduced scope of work. That's you think the price will change based on the complete scope of work, or is it that we're reducing the scope of work of what will be addressed?
Yeah, I think what we need to, you know, with the public library construction grant, we need to spend that full amount. But the bid did not include, it didn't include a couple of sides of the parapet walls over the reading room. So if we throw those in, I think the bid will come up pretty close to, you know, what's in the grant. Now the grant for the east wall came in at 189,000, which is over what we have available. We have 132,000 available. So we need to do some changes in that as well. I believe they included, you know, repointing everything on that wall, and they don't really need to do that. So we're gonna, you know, with some switching around, I think that we will, you know, really closely match our grant resources.
I'm sorry, Bob. Paul, excuse me. Could you repeat the available funds for each grant, please?
What's that?
Could you repeat the available funds?
Yeah,
for each grant?
the grant for the public library construction grant was for 320,500, and the east wall grant through DASNY was at 132,000 total.
Got it. 132. And actually, I thought that the Debrino grant and the PCC, the Debrino bid and the PCC bids were actually fairly close. I didn't think they were too far apart. So I think you had two contractors with similar numbers there. So it didn't seem too bad. I thought it seems like they're in the right ballpark. Seems like they're bidding the same scope of work. And if there's an opportunity to shift work from one to the other to maximize the funds, that probably makes good sense to do that within the realms, the limitations of the grant, of course. So we need to make sure we do that, but I'm glad we are in the right ballpark.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape, and we're going to talk to DeBrino, and what we want to do is get a contract signed here, so that I expressed, to Lisa, and I will express to DeBrino that we need this started, first thing in the spring, as soon as you can work, and get it done by June. So that's really where we're at, and I think we can get a contract signed really soon.
You may check with the contractor. Maybe he wants to work earlier, and let them decide when to start.
Absolutely. If he can, we'd be more than happy.
Yeah.
But I'm just going on the basis of what probably will happen.
And that includes the asbestos abatement?
And that Maria's asking, does that include the asbestos abatement, Paul?
Yeah, this is with abatement.
Great. Excellent. Well, please keep us posted on that. On the SHPO historic structures report and the grant for that with SHPO for the main library, for the main branch of the library. I understand that last time we spoke, I think that the contract had not yet been signed.
Yeah, as far as I know, it is, and I've got a note into Danielle, just saying, as far as we know, we can go ahead. So I'm waiting for a response on that, but I don't see any reason why we can't go through the process of selecting, at this point.
Okay, so you signed off on the contract, and so we can then issue RFPs for historic structures reports.
Yeah, I just want, I just want to hear from Danielle that everything is, copacetic there.
Do they need to review the potential companies that we're submitting the RFP requests to, or whatever the terminology would be?
I think we should, if we've in fact signed the form, if we've got documentation that the form's been signed, if we prepare a draft of the RFP and send that to them and say, we're proposing to send this RFP to these companies, that should give them plenty of opportunity to weigh in on whether, if they have any concerns with any of those companies or with the RFP.
Okay, because the Preservation League said they wanted to review the vendors, potential vendors, and made the comment that they weren't too concerned about it because they realized that SHPO would have to approve any vendor as well.
Okay. Well, we will finalize the RFP. We'll get that together and we'll send that, Paul, you could then send that to SHPO and to Marie, what was the name of the organization you just mentioned?
The Preservation League of New York State
Got it.
Preservation League.
Okay. Well, that's good news. And we previously talked about a grant from an organization that wished to remain anonymous pending their public notifications, and that grant would be able to be used for the library's share of the historic preservation report.
It's the Preservation League.
Yeah, that's the preservation.
Got it. And have they made their public announcements yet? May we refer to the Preservation League in our minutes?
Yes, the press release went out. Both, and Paul, both, I think, from us and from them as well.
Great.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We had also talked about the public library construction grant through UHLA, and that UHLA had looked at our grant and was supporting our grant. Michelle, you look much more comfortable. And I think SHPO had been looking for some additional information. Is there any update on that grant process?
The one on the reading room? You
The
mean?
reading room and the kitchen floor slab.
Yeah, I think, oh, did I cover that before? Anyway, yes, we got them to sign off on the whole thing. Upper Hudson sent that in with the grant, so that's our final letter. They signed off on everything.
Okay,
So that's okay.
excellent. Excellent. And let's see, there was an 10th of October deadline to accept the grant. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
There was a 10th of October deadline for accepting the grant.
Yeah, it's already gone in. So, yeah, it's already been filed with the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have accepted.
So we will hear from them someday. Incidentally, we do have that other public library construction grant for the cupola over Lansingburg. We should be seeing funds for that any day at this point. So actually, we could start that project as well. And I don't know, it's a short project. It shouldn't take long. We might be able to squeeze that in before the weather gets bad. So hopefully we'll see the funds, like I said, any day now.
Well, if we manage to hold the weather like we have right now, then yes, we might be able to get some work done. It's always challenging this time of the year, though, when it doesn't know
The
from week to
weather
week.
only stays like it is now.
Right. Okay. Was there any update on the wood wainscot floor for the Lansingburg branch? I know there was some conversation with the insurance company. Is that just put to bed, or is that?
Well, I just don't think we're gonna see anything more from them, and maybe we need to fix that floor. Their total that is like $4,611, which is, not a lot. We have a $2,500 deductible on that anyway. So, I don't know. I think maybe we should probably just go ahead and get that floor fixed.
And we have the funds available through other means to cover that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, in the unrestricted construction account, taking into account all of the matching funds that we need, we still have enough, I think, to do that. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Let's see.
I don't know, the sun's coming in here. It looks like I'm being blessed or something. I don't know. I'll take it for that.
There we go. I just wanted to let folks know that Paul and I did get together and look at the lock box, the key lock box for the front of the building. Looks like something that should be able to be mounted as we had previously discussed. I'm assembling materials for that. I have some of the materials, but I apologize. I've not been able to do that work yet. I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks I will be able to do that. Things have, like I said, big deadline met today, so that'll free up some time on my end to do that lockbox installation, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And Maria, did you have any updates on the construction projection folder you want to talk about?
Yeah, I did place an updated file in the building committee Dropbox for people to be able to see, and we'll continue to update that particular file. I just have to try sharing my screen here.
You should be able to share it now. I made you the host.
Okay, I just have to find which one it is. Do people see the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay. So actually, we're looking at spending about 125,000 in matches next year. And if we're also talking about the cupola, there'll be an additional 7,000 for that. So about 132,000 is what we would expect to outlay for that. So we have commitments of everything but 43,000. And we also have to be concerned because with some of the grants, we have to put out the money and then get reimbursed. So we need additional monies from the construction account in order to be able to do that. For instance, for the historic structure report, which we would expect to be done next year. That's close to $60,000 that we expect from the state. So I'm not sure how quick that would be reimbursed to us, or quickly that would be reimbursed to us. We also have to outlay the 125,000 from the SAM grant. They've indicated that the turnaround time should be fairly quick on that, but we do have to lay out the money first and then get reimbursed. So does anyone have any questions?
And Maria, I'm sorry, I don't, I thank you for doing the work on this here. I didn't necessarily see where the numbers are adding up there, in which columns and how you've got it arranged, but certainly what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Okay, maybe I can explain the columns.
You know, you just did some summaries very quickly, and I'm not sure I didn't see where those were being added up, so I just may have just missed it.
It isn't so much being added up, it's being subtracted from the undesignated construction account. So we started out with almost $205,000. And then for each project, it indicates how much gets expended, it gets left after making the match. Does that help? So the bottom line is only 43,000 is uncommitted in matching. And that may be needed to lay out funds for the CFA, the HSR project, and also for the, let's see, the East Wall. But we would eventually get that back, but we need to have it to lay out. In addition, the whole reason we're doing the historic structure report is to establish a plan for how to move forward in terms of what we'd like to see done with a library building, whether it be this one or if it's found that this building is not suitable for what we want to see for the library in the future, then an alternative building. So we need to be establishing funding to have matches for the grants that it would put us in a position to seek, which I assume would be fairly substantial.
So the long and the short of it is, it seems like we have a lot of money in our hand right now, but a lot of that money is committed for things already. And will need to be, that money will also need to be available to carry float for expenses that will come up, for which we will be reimbursed eventually, but we don't know exactly when we'll be reimbursed. And so therefore we need to be very careful about how we spend that money, so we don't get caught short somewhere in the middle.
And I think trying to also build more of a fund for the anticipated needs for matching coming up, that I would expect to rise by the end of next year, for instance.
Yeah.
Essentially, we'll want to be submitting a grant for the construction fund. And that happens in what, September, Paul?
What's that?
When are grants for the library construction fund, when are they submitted at grant applications? Is that September?
September, October, yeah. I mean, right around there.
So hopefully we'll be far enough along on the historic structure report that we can identify a project to submit at that time.
If I may,
Uh-huh.
if you are talking about the New York State Construction Fund, it would actually, our actually proposal would go in by August. And then it gets its internal UHLS committee review there. And then that starts to go back in September to the board. And then it's sent to the state in October. So we'd actually have to be a little bit sooner with what we want to do than September, to be honest. From my way of thinking, if this is what you're talking about. But everyone advocate again this year, so they put some more money back in the construction fund.
Thanks for that clarification, Evelyn.
You know what?
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. And I hope you don't mind my saying that.
No, I appreciate it. Because it's important to have these deadlines in mind or we'll miss them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's an issue with regard to the historic structure report, trying to get information, foreshadowing, so that we can apply by August or
Right.
determine what we're applying for.
Right. Internally at Upper Hudson, they try to use August to do any modifications depending on the number of projects and the available funding, because sometimes a library can go back and snip something here and change something there to fit what's available cash wise, fund wise.
Right.
I guess I could add too at this point that my own schedule, I seriously start to work on these things in June.
Okay, well, that's a target. I don't know how feasible that is. But I guess the sooner we get the historic structure report firm identified, the more likely we'll have something that we can build upon by that time. What do you think, Kirsten?
Marie, do you mind if I make a comment first?
No, please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not trying to jump in ahead, but we also still have the report from the architects with the list of things to be done. So we have that also. And again, tell me if I'm wrong, as a fallback on projects to request being done for that cycle of the grant.
Certainly that's available. And yes, Evelyn, you're right. That could be a fallback position. That has identified work that is needs to be addressed. We try to just being proactive and thinking ahead in the bigger picture, and trying to develop an overall strategy, which may be a multi-year strategy, and how to do that and prioritize. So certainly, if we have nothing from the historic structures report, then that would be the place to identify things rather than just pulling out of the air.
There are also Lansingburg's needs
Yes.
Right.
as
Well,
well. Go ahead.
They're in the architect's proposals too. So there
Yeah.
are Lansingburg projects in there also.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll be able to find things to apply for. There's no lack of things that can be addressed. But in terms of getting the RFP together and getting quotes from people, the sooner the better. I agree. So I think that would be getting that RFP finalized. But now that we know that SHPO does not have any additional stipulations for that RFP, I think that'd be important to do in the next few weeks. So if it's okay with folks, I would take the things that we've developed so far and take one more look at them and share them out and see what people think in the next couple of weeks there, if that works for everybody.
That would be great if there's anything I can do.
Certainly, I'll share it with.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. RFP.
So I have a question which isn't quite pertinent, but this is the first opportunity we've had to talk about the recent bequest or additional bequest from Mary Lou Cronin. I was curious, if I remember correctly, her first portion of her bequest was to be used for Lansingburg. Is that correct, Evelyn?
No, it was
No.
no. That was another quest that was.
It was
a
another?
smaller one. There was a $15,000 bequest, and the only restriction on that was it be used at Lansingburg. It didn't specify for what at Lansingburg. It could have been materials, whatever. But it was supposed to be directed to Lansingburg. But the other two bequests that we received, there were no restrictions.
Okay, did you say that was,
or how?
was the Lansingburg bequest 15,000, did you say? 15? I'm sorry, there seems to be,
Yes,
Um,
yes, 15.
okay.
It might be my instability here. I don't know. It didn't say it was unstable, but sometimes this happens. Spectrum is what it is.
I'm not
yes,
sure. It seems to me that people are having trouble hearing me where they don't usually, so it could be
Ah.
not spectrum.
Marie, did you have further thoughts about the bequest?
I've been developing a wish list. Has everybody else?
I know we certainly
Not in
have got,
specific terms, certainly general.
and I know that several of our grants have needs for matching grants, matching funds. So I certainly think that those could be an opportunity as well.
I always will speak up, obviously, but maybe not so obviously, for that service component of what we actually do as our mission, for our patrons and the public. So,
What were you
I
thinking of,
think,
Ellen?
if not a certainly not a particular program at this point in time, because we don't even have the money cashed until it's check in hand. And I'm hoping the library itself is responsive to its needs at any given time and how we spend that money. So I'm not opposed to using it for a match, for a grant. I'm also hoping that we are adaptable in how we use that money and not really rigid of it needs to be used for this. I mean, Cronin was a traveler and a reader and so many other things, and a teacher, that honoring her with how we use this, I think, is important.
Well, grants aren't just for buildings. They're for programs. They can be
Right.
for programs and materials as well. So, anybody else want to venture? Paul, do you have a wish list?
Yeah, my wish list is the total of $8 million. So the need is certainly there. The need is very large. One thing that, though, in terms of operations, it may be a good idea to establish an actual reserve fund that does not necessarily that is not necessarily used for matching funds all the time for grants. So, I think that would be helpful from the point of operations.
It would certainly make your life a little easier, I would think, Paul, after all the time that you've worried about scraping through and time for the tax
Well, I
revenue.
mean, that's the big thing. I mean, it's a constant struggle to have a budget that is as lean as ours and try to operate, a public service the way we do. Which, by the way, I had to send to my staff. The staff is doing a really remarkably good job at providing service to this community right now.
I certainly concur on
We
both.
may
I also
even,
think that
with the reserve fund, be able to, offer more incentives to our staff as well. So those are my thoughts so far. I didn't have a lot of time because I was really surprised at how much was left in that will, in that estate. I
do we
didn't
have any
at all.
idea when we might expect to receive the funds?
What's that?
Do we have any idea when we might expect to receive the funds?
We're looking every day for the check.
That close.
What, literally, I mean, what I signed was a release. They sent me a letter saying, the funds, about the funds, and asked me to sign a release, which I did. I did talk to Tom Spain. Anyway, I did talk to the attorney involved because I needed to get an address because some people have mentioned, sending an acknowledgement. So I wanted to get that contact information. But the way he talked, as soon as he got my signed copy, he was gonna draw the checks. So it should be any time now.
That's incredibly exciting news. I'm sure that some other organizations will be very jealous of our request.
Well, I had a question. When you receive that money, which fund will you put it into, or will you open another fund? Because the discussion some time ago, I thought, was that we would have trouble carrying a reserve, but obviously this is a gift that will preserve over several years. will you open another account?
Well, no, not automatically. I think the best place right now would be to put it in the investment account until the board decides what they want to do. And then if we want to create another account, that's a possibility.
Okay, so that's 1227, key
Yeah,
bank
initially,
investment.
we cash the check, it would go into the investment account.
Okay.
Are there any further building related issues that we want to touch base on today?
I can't think of anything more. Anybody else? Evelyn? Oh,
I actually can't. Surprise.
I'm sorry, Evelyn, I missed part of that. It sounded like things are going well on your end, though, that your information is, you have the information you need.
are you speaking to Marie or to Evelyn?
I was speaking to Evelyn. Evelyn, on my end, Evelyn broke up there a little bit, so
Oh, I just said I had no, I was,
Evelyn
said
said she had nothing to add.
that was it.
Thank you.
The mouth has nothing to say to it.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Or nothing more to say today.
Well, excellent. Then if there's nothing else to go over at this time, then we could talk about our next meeting, which would be on the 4th Friday of November, which is pretty close to Thanksgiving there. So I just want to see where we fall in relationship to Thanksgiving. Calendar, 1, 2, 3. Is Thanksgiving the 19th this year?
It's the 26th for Thanksgiving and our meeting would be on the, I have it as a 26th.
26, yeah.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Which would make our meeting on the 27th.
It would be on Black Friday.
So may I move that we change our meeting for next month to not be the day after Thanksgiving?
That would be fantastic. I would second that.
Okay. Would people be open to meeting on the 20th instead?
On the Mexican Revolutionary anniversary, sure.
I seem to be available.
Revolution. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's another Friday.
It is a Friday. It's a week early.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Then if there are no objections, then I'd like to suggest that we get together on instead of the 4th Friday, we get together on the 20th, which is in fact the 3rd Friday of November.
10, 20. Okay.
Okay, last call. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring to the table for today? No?
Going once, going twice.
Okay, very
Weekend.
good. Thank you,
All right.
everybody, for joining today. Really appreciate it. Keep you posted on Paul and Marie. I'll keep you posted on the draft for the Historic Structures Report RFP, update draft for that there. I'll share that out in the next, like I said, next week or two, and we can then advance that process.
Right, if need be, I would be happy to write an email to Danielle just saying that because we received this other grant, which is we're required to complete the Preservation League grant within a year, that we're anxious to get started.
And I think maybe we even take this draft RFP and attach it to that email. You know, we understand the contract's been signed. We have this other grant we've received, which is a very timely issue that we need to move that along. Here's our draft RFP. We're proposing to send it out to these 3 companies. If we don't hear from you, we are going to be proceeding with the work based on that. Something of that nature. Does that sound like a good way to do that? Or you want to do something sooner?
No, I think that's a good approach because we need to get that to them anyway, right?
And you know, they'll have the opportunity to look at the draft, final draft, and weigh in on that. And they'll be able to say, hey, I don't like this company, which I would be very surprised if they're having concerns with the 3 companies we are proposing. I think that should put their mind at ease.
Yeah, do you think we might want to put a date in if we don't hear from you by such and such a date?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if we don't hear, you know, and I think we tie that in with our timing of the RFP return. If we don't hear from you within a few days before we get the RFP back, then we will be signing a contract with one of these companies. So I think that's a good idea. Okay.
You have a plan?
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a nice
Yeah.
weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather, as Evelyn is showing us how to do. So I'm looking forward to getting outside as well. Thank you very much, everybody, and take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye.
Marie,
Yes,
are you able to stop the recording so I can, 'cause you're the host right now.
I don't know. Will it stop if I just end the meeting?
Oh, maybe it will. We can try that.
Oops. So I was going to, it was asking me whether I wanted to end the meeting. Now it's stopped. Okay.